Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. Find me a find, catch me a catch. Well, I'm not going to be a singer in the musical Fiddler on the Roof, but you already guessed what our subject is for this week. Matchmaker, matchmaking. This is the fifth gift that Judaism gave to the world, which is happening even today, when matchmaking is not really the forte of young couples, but matchmaking as an ideal is the fifth gift that our holy scriptures are giving us in this week's portion. What's so special about matchmaking? There's a story about Rabbi Yossi Bar Chalafta from the 2nd century, who was approached by a very important Roman woman, and she asked him, God created the world in 6 days, so what is he doing since then? What is he sitting and having a tequila on the beach? And Rabbi Yossi Bar Chalafta says, no, from the time that he created the world, he is matchmaking. He brings different aspects of the world together. That's quite easy, said the Roman woman. I will do the same, and I will show you how easy it is. She summoned her slaves and her maidservants, and she stood the one in front of the other, one opposite each other, and she says, you are to get married with this one, and that's how she matchmade 1,000 slaves and maidservants. The following day they all came. This one eye is bleeding, this one hand is crooked, this one legs is broken. And she asked him what happened. She says, well, we're not getting along. That Roman individual says, I understand that there's no God but the God of Israel. It is not easy to be a matchmaker. And it is not easy to match different individuals in the world. Rabbi Yossi Bar Chalafta says, you are right. It is hard as the parting of the sea of reeds. Matchmaking is the gift of God to humanity, because this world is working towards chaos, and God holds it. God makes sure that matchmaking is essential to the world, but not just between a man and a woman. Matchmaking surrounds us in every aspect. Particles in the universe, biology, different species coming together, different individuals. Mankind is coming to be as one. So matchmaking in terms of business, in terms of agriculture, architecture, it's all about matchmaking of two aspects in this life. And that's why God is doing that since the day of creation. And we mimic Him. We go forward and matchmake different concepts in the world. And God is calling us, a call to humanity, that each and every individual should deal with making matches throughout his life. Taking in business this individual and this individual, taking this woman and that man. And we find in our portion 2 stories that illustrate that matchmaking. The first one is obviously the acquiring the cave of Machpelah in Hebron from Ephron, and that's a transaction. And that transaction, although Ephron wants to give Abraham the cave for free, he still pays him money and he makes the transaction. There is a match there between the buyer and the seller. But to illustrate it even in a more heightened way, or in a more emphasized way, is the story of course, the first matchmaker in history recorded by the Bible, and that is Eliezer, the servant of Abraham. Eliezer, the servant of Abraham, is summoned by Abraham to find a wife for his son Yitzchak. And here's a puzzling thing. 67 verses are dedicated for this matchmaking ordeal, unlike anything else I ever saw in the Torah. You know, other creations or other stories in the Bible, let's take for example the creation of the world. 34 verses. 34 verses took God to create the world. And here the Torah so-called wastes 67 verses to describe this matchmaking endeavor of Eliezer, the servant of Abraham. Why? To emphasize to us that we are partners with God. Since God created the world and is matchmaking on his own, he does not leave it only to the divine intervention, but we have to make an effort. And the matchmaking is the contact point between the divine intervention and our personal responsibility and freedom of choice. When we are taught that Yitzchak is going to be the leader of the Jewish people are going to be a nation through Yitzchak, Abraham does not leave that to godly intervention. He acts. He hires a matchmaker. He tells him to go out and make this match because we are partners with God, and that's our responsibility. So that's the fifth gift. There is a great message here on how to matchmake, and we see that in the portion of Eliezer, the servant of Abraham. He knows the divine intervention. He knows it's going to happen. He knows that he arrived at the house of the relatives of Abraham, but he does not leave it to chance. He acts. He puts signs. Is the woman going to give me water? Is going to give water to my camels? And he stands there to see if it is true, if God will help him. But he makes the effort, and Abraham makes the effort, because they are joined in a partnership, not leaving it to divine intervention, but intervening and taking personal responsibility and mimicking God to become matchmakers in this world. Fifth gift, become a matchmaker. Matchmaker, make me a match. Find me a find, catch me a catch.